Good morning. It is 10 o'clock a.m. Central Time. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Steve Ruxlow. I'm going to be the moderator of today's session. And I just wanted to let everybody know that we're doing this remotely, our entire team. So the three of us that are doing this are in separate locations. And since we are remote, you could hear something in the background. Where I'm at right now, we've got a thunderstorm coming. 90% chance of that, so hopefully we don't have a power interruption or something like that. You might hear some thunder, maybe a dog barking with somebody else or a siren, something like that. So thanks for joining us. And also I wanted to remind everybody that if you have questions, you can send those in through the chat function, through the connection that you have, and we'll review those at the end of the presentation and talk about those. So thanks for coming in. We're going to go ahead and start our Commercial Cooking Exposures and Risk Control Services Part 1. It's a two-part series for Society Insurance agents. Before we get going, I just want to say a little bit about who Society Insurance is. We're a regional insurance company. We're based in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. We currently write business in 6 states. That's Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Tennessee, and Minnesota. And we've been writing workers' compensation coverage since the beginning in 1915 of our company. And today we're also offering property, liability, and commercial auto coverage with extensive knowledge and experience in protecting the hospitality industries. Our specialty is providing insurance for select business niches and a focus on the small details that make the biggest difference. As I mentioned before, my name is Steve Ruxlow. I'll be the moderator. I'm one of the risk control managers here at Society Insurance. I'm based in Illinois, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jarrett Wagner.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jarrett Wagner. I've been with Society Insurance for a little over 12 years. I started off in claims, and I have been a risk control representative for just about 7 years now. I'm currently based out of Chicago. My territory ranges everywhere from the Chicago metropolitan area all the way out to South Bend and a little further in Indiana. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the last presenter today, Paul.
Hey, thanks, Jarrett. He never tries to pronounce my last name. It's always a fun one to get. It's Furbringer. I've been in the risk control business for over 38 years. I joined Society back in 2014. I'm a senior risk control representative servicing the eastern half of Wisconsin.
Thanks, Paul. Real quick, just some other things we need to take care of. A quick disclaimer. The information here is provided as a convenience, and it must not be assumed that it is detecting all potential unsafe acts or conditions. The information is not professional advice. It's designed to help you in recognizing potential unsafe work problems and not to establish compliance with any laws, rules, or regulations.
Fantastic. Now, our goal for this webinar today is to provide you with a better understanding of the fire risks associated with commercial cooking and the controls needed to minimize and/or eliminate these risks. We are giving you a glimpse of what we as risk control representatives look for each and every time we are visiting the restaurants and taverns. During the seminar, you will learn the basic requirements for assessing commercial cooking exposures. Again, this is what we would be looking for when we walk through a facility. You're going to learn the basic controls needed for these commercial cooking exposures, and you're going to learn about the risk control resources available to assist you and your customers to minimize and control workplace exposures. When you think about how to minimize the risk loss or risk associated with commercial cooking, we need to consider the basic controls that are associated with this. Again, these are the controls that we as risk control reps are looking for every time we go out there. In session 1 today, we're going to talk about the types of filters that are required for the commercial cooking and the hood and duct cleaning requirements for these. During our next session, session 2, which will be on Tuesday, August 18th at 10 a.m., you're going to learn about automatic extinguishing systems, the servicing requirements for these extinguishing systems, and grease-laden rags, both cleaning and storage. Believe it or not, Society Insurance has 2 to 3 claims a year due to spontaneous combustion from rags. And I had a firsthand account with this last year with one of my hotel tenants or hotel clients that I have. They've got a full service restaurant. When I'm walking through and going into the laundry, I noticed the concrete block wall outside the laundry was completely black, as was the concrete ceiling. And I asked the manager, I said, what happened here? And he goes, funny story. They have the proper equipment to clean the rags, but unfortunately the employees pulled them out of the dryer too fast. So these rags were just stuffed in an open bin and pushed out in the hallway, and they still had enough heat generated to start a fire there. So these losses do occur. Now, this is what can happen to a business with less than adequate commercial cooking controls. Not really what a business owner wants to happen, but it's an unfortunate consequence of not following, or what we find a lot of times, not really understanding the basic controls needed for the commercial cooking exposures. According to the Nfpa, on average, fires in eating and drinking establishments cause annual losses of 3 civilian deaths, 110 civilian injuries, and over 165 million in direct property damage. Cooking equipment was the leading cause of these fires at 61% of the fires. So with that, I just want to hit you with our first poll question of the day. What do you think is the average number of fires at eating and drinking establishments in the U.S. per year between 2010 and 2014? Your options are 457, 1,567, 3,468, or 7,410. Just pick one of your answers, just click on it and hit enter, and we'll see what we get here.
Yeah, I see responses coming in here. We'll just give it a second. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move forward here.
All right, and the answer is 52% of you thought it was 3,468. The correct answer is 7,410. Now, that's a lot of fires, and nobody really wants their business to be one of these statistics. As you can see by the next slide, too, not every fire results in a total loss for a facility. Sometimes you can get lucky, if you want to call it that, and the fire will not spread beyond the object of origin. And that happened in 68% of those fires we talked about in eating and drinking establishments. You could end up with something that looks like this. What the purpose of this seminar is to try to teach you the steps to prevent this from happening at all. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jarrett. He's going to run through the various types of cooking equipment that you will see that produce these grease-laden vapors that present our fire exposures.
Thank you, Mr. Furbringer. Oh, I guess it wasn't as hard as you made it out to be. Before we get into the different types of cooking equipment that you see, I just want to give a brief overview on the National Fire Protection Agency or Association, excuse me. This is a United States trade association that creates and maintains standards and codes to minimize death, injury, property, and economic loss due to fire, electrical, and other related hazards. The Nfpa 96 provides safety requirements for cooking operations. The Nfpa standard for ventilation control and fire protection of commercial cooking operations states, cooking equipment used in processes producing smoke or grease-laden vapors shall be equipped with an exhaust system that complies with all the requirements of the standard. The exhaust system and cooking equipment shall be protected by a UL 300 extinguishing system, which is something that we will cover in the next session. So you heard, and you may see UL listing or UL approved everywhere, and this is something that is extremely important. UL is short for Underwriter Laboratories. This is an organization based in Illinois that has been around for a little over 125 years. They're one of the most well-known, largest, and independent testing laboratories in the world. Having a UL listing means that Underwriters Laboratories has tested represented samples of a product and has determined the product meets specific and defined requirements. These requirements are nationally recognized standards for safety. Residential cooking equipment is not designed for the heavy use that UL listed commercial appliances are. And you see the picture here on the slide. This is of a residential equipment. If you could kind of take an idea and see what's wrong with this picture, the range is definitely not listed for UL commercial use. There does not appear to be any sort of hood or duct present for ventilation, and does not look like there's any sort of automatic extinguishing system in place. So thank you for bearing with some of the more technical aspects. Now we'll get into kind of the hands-on and see some of the items that Paul, myself, and some of my other colleagues will see on our day-to-day visits of restaurants. Here we have some examples of cooking equipment which produce grease-laden vapors. These are some of the most common found in commercial kitchens. Is no way is it an exhaustive or complete list. We've got salamander broilers, cheese melters, griddles, char boilers, woks, ranges, deep fat fryers, and braising pans. If you look at the top right photo, you'll see a line which consists of mostly woks. These are present in any sort of kitchen that specializes in Asian cooking. On the bottom, we have, we'll kind of start from left to right. We've got a set of deep fat fryers. Then we have the char grill, char boiler right next to it. Above that, you'll see the salamander broiler. Then we have the flat top griddle directly under and a range oven at the far end of the cooking line. Right here, you can see an example of a range oven. These are typically gas fueled and often used for pan style cooking. They usually serve a dual purpose, as you'll notice they have ovens underneath the burners. This is a grease-laden vapor producing device. Next, a group of deep fat fryers. These are used for frying anything from French fries to Twinkies, and depending on which state fair you visit, probably everything in between. These are most definitely grease-laden vapor producing and are routinely found to be the cause of kitchen fires. As Paul and some of my other colleagues will notice, a lot of emphasis is placed on the cleaning of these fryers. They are the #1 source of cooking fires in commercial kitchens. And for some more information, we do have a fryer safety video provided by Society Insurance on our YouTube channel. Just search how to use a fryer safely in your restaurant. Next up, this is a perfect example of a salamander broiler or cheese melter, as they may commonly be referred to. They are used for broiling, browning, caramelizing, glazing, and toasting of various food items. For anybody curious as to where the name salamander broiler came from, this apparently dates back to the 16th or 17th century. Supposedly, the original piece of cooking equipment either looked like a salamander or got its name because salamanders were originally believed to be fire-breathing mammals, or lizards, excuse me. Here we've got a flat top griddle. This is used to cook any number of menu items and is extremely common in commercial kitchens due to their ability for even heat production. Because of the versatility, we find them in everything from breakfast diners, mom and pop cafes, all the way up to hibachi style restaurants alike. Next, a char boiler. These are normally found in commercial cooking appliances as well. They are similarly used to residential grills, which we find in our backyards or patios. They slightly char the food, providing a smoky flavor and grilled aesthetic look. Next, we have a pressure fryer or a broaster. This is a combination of heated oils and pressure in a vessel in order to cook food more quickly. These are present on fish fries and areas that do a high volume of chicken or other fried items. The heated oil releases flammable vapor similarly to a regular deep fat fryer, which does create the need for a baffle plate between the open flame. And we have every risk professional's favorite piece of cooking equipment, smokers. If a customer has a smoker which utilizes some sort of solid fuel, please reference a Society Insurance risk control webinar specifically on meat smoking. We're not going to get into it in great detail. That webinar does provide specific information which will help reduce the risk of fire related to meat smoking ovens. Meat smoking is becoming increasingly common in restaurants, grocery stores, and meat product manufacturers. The webinar will discuss corrective actions that can help reduce the hazards that cause these fires. And to find the webinar on our YouTube page, you could just search Preventing Fire Hazards for Meat Smoking Operations. All right, let's jump in for another poll. Which of the following cooking appliances is not a grease-producing appliance? Your choices are a fryer, a range, an electric pizza oven, and a flat-top grill. We'll go ahead and give you a moment to choose your option.
I can see selections coming in. We'll give it a few seconds and keep coming in.
All right, proud to say almost everybody got the correct answer here with the electric pizza oven. And we will go into greater detail on why that does or doesn't require a specific hood. Here, this cooking equipment does not require an exhaust hood with ductwork, protected by UL 300 automatic extinguishing systems. However, pizza ovens do require an exhaust hood with ventilation due to the heat exposures, which we'll talk about a little bit.
And with that, I'll take over, Jared. Thanks for the history of the salamander and all the pieces of equipment there. To begin with, now that we've talked about the types of cooking equipment that are out there and that you will be seeing in the field, it's time to discuss some of the basic controls needed to control these grease-laden vapors. This begins with the exhaust hood. Exhaust hoods are a component of the entire ventilation system, and they're located directly above the commercial cooking equipment. It's important to note that all the cooking equipment that produces grease-laden vapors must be located underneath the exhaust hood. You might occasionally see a recommendation from us stating that the exhaust hood should be extended so that all cooking equipment is located underneath the hood. Restaurant owners sometimes add new equipment. They get bigger equipment as they grow, and sometimes it no longer fits underneath here. It's necessary in order for it to capture the grease coming out of there. And the exhaust hoods are designed with the filters in there. You can see the baffle filters above the oven there. That is what captures the airborne grease and other particulates. All seams and joints of the hood closure that directly capture that need to be liquid tight with a continuous external weld. And as Jared mentioned, there are two types of exhaust hoods out there designed for the commercial cooking applications. Type 1 hood, which is what you see here, are the ones that are designed for the grease exhaust applications. Type 2 hoods, such as the one for the pizza oven you mentioned, are designed for heat and steam removal and other non-grease applications. If you want to learn more about exhaust hoods, again, we put together a separate video. Go to our YouTube channel and look at Kitchen Fire 101, Clean Commercial Hood and Duct Systems, for greater detail regarding these. Now that we've talked about the exhaust hoods themselves, let's talk about the grease removal filters found in the exhaust hoods. These filters are another component of the entire ventilation system. They are required to be installed in the hood, and it's important that they must be at least 18 inches from the cooking surface. This allows the grease to rise, or the grease-laden vapors to rise and become captured in there. Typically, we see them between 24 and 36 inches in height. The filters need to be installed at an angle of not less than 45 degrees. The reason for this is if they're vertical at 90 degrees, they're not going to capture the grease. It's going to go straight up above into the hood or up onto the ceiling. So that's important to be able to capture those grease-laden vapors. They must be easily accessible and removable for cleaning, and the filters must be cleaned at least weekly. One of the problems or some of the recommendations you probably see from us regarding exhaust hood filters is they need to be cleaned more frequently, at least weekly, but those that do heavy cooking might need to be doing them twice a week, or in a lot of cases, the accounts I see, they need to be doing them on a daily basis at the end of the shift. These filters need to be tight fitting. Occasionally, you're going to see that recommendation from us because there's gaps between the filters when you look up there. That allows the grease-laden vapors to actually get up into the hood and ductwork up above where we don't want them. We want them captured by the filters, which are being cleaned on a regular basis. So the filters are one of the areas, as Jared said, the deep fat fryer is the biggest part of the cooking equipment we look at. The filters are the biggest part of the actual removal of it that we take a very close look at. And there's actually two types of filters out there. The metal mesh filter that you see on the left-hand side there, those are no longer permitted by Nfpa 96. These filters are obsolete. Occasionally, we might see these in a small tavern or a small restaurant in a rural community. You don't see these in any of the bigger cities. These things clog up. They can't get cleaned well. That's when the NFPA said, you know what, we're switching to the baffle filters. If you look on the right there, that's a metal baffle filter. These things, you can actually see the grease when it gets on them. They're a lot easier to clean, and it's just the only ones that are actually allowed for the grease removal at this time. So you will see a recommendation from us if we see those mesh filters that they need to be replaced immediately with the baffle filters. And again, when I talked about the grease filter, the dirty versus clean, the upper line there is grease that is just heavily caked on to the filters. It's also caked onto the pipe there that has your fire suppression system on it. The ones on the bottom, you can see that they pull those on a regular basis and clean them. That is ideally what we look for when we walk into a restaurant. And it's something you can very easily see when you go into a kitchen area when you're dealing with one of your current customers or a potential new customer. You can see what that looks like. And then we come to the grease buildup in the exhaust hoods themselves. We've talked about the filters, but the ductwork above there also needs to be inspected and cleaned on a regular basis to reduce the potential for the grease buildup. We already mentioned that the filters need to be cleaned at least weekly, and that is typically done by the staff of the account. They pull them, they rinse them, they put them back in the next morning. Some places actually utilize a service that comes once a month and changes out the filters, and they tell me that that's adequate. And I'm like, that's fine that they do that because they get a great deep cleaning, but you still need to be rinsing them at least weekly there. There should be a scheduled inspection for the cleaning of the hood and ductwork by a qualified contractor, not less than 2 times a year. If you look at the chart there, you see the different frequencies of when the system should be cleaned. The majority of systems that we see are the systems servicing the moderate volume cooking operations, and these need to be inspected and cleaned on a semi-annual basis. Higher volumes of cooking get up to quarterly, and the ones that get up to monthly, I have seen those out there, but that's more of you get one of those Mongolian grill type locations where you got that big, huge grill, and the grease in there is unbelievable. They need to be done on a monthly basis. And on the bottom there, you can see there is some flexibility. If you've got day camps, if you've got seasonal businesses, senior citizen homes and that, where they don't do a whole lot of fried food in that, annually is sufficient there, provided that's what the contractor doing the cleaning says. So upon inspection, the outside firm that you hire is going to come in, and if found to be contaminated with deposits from grease-laden vapors, the contaminated portions of the exhaust system shall be cleaned, and it's got to be cleaned by a properly trained and qualified contractor. A tip for you when you're out in a restaurant and you're back into the kitchen area, take a look at the side of the exhaust hood. You should be able to find a sticker on the side there that gives the name of the cleaning contractor, like Elite Hood Cleaning is one that I see quite a bit. On that sticker, it will indicate the date that they were there. So I can quickly look up, and if I looked at one today that said December 2019, I know that that is slightly overdue, that it should have been done again in June. So a tip you can take, a lot of times we take pictures of those, so feel free when you're sending in accounts to underwriters, if you want to take a picture of the servicing company and the sticker, send it in. They love to see that kind of stuff. But that's as far as the seminar today, what we really wanted to do is just give you an overview of the basic requirements, and that's the types of equipment that you're dealing with, the exhaust hood and the filter system. During our next webinar, we're going to get more detailed into the risk controls for these, as far as the automatic extinguishing systems, and the risk control resources that are available. We've got some excellent risk control resources that we love to work with you and with our customers on ways of helping to reduce and control losses. So again, part 2 of this webinar will be on Tuesday, August 18th at 10 a.m. Please feel free to join us for that. It'll be another fun and exciting time with Jarrett and I. And with that, do we have any questions?
Hi, Paul. This is Steve. A couple questions have come in, actually, and we'll leave it open for people to keep sending them in. One that came in said, how does my customer know if their hood and duct work should be cleaned more than twice a year?
That's an excellent question, Steve. Really, that comes down to the qualified servicing contractor that you use. They will come in, they will pull the filters, and they will look up into the system itself, and they will let you know that, hey, this is a real heavy buildup for just 6 months in between. You probably should be doing this every 3 months. So we rely heavily upon these companies because they're the ones that get up there and do the cleaning. And if you've ever seen pictures of these guys when they're done cleaning the hoods and the exhaust systems, they come out completely covered in grease and oil. Kind of a disgusting job, but they do a heck of a job, and they're wonderful when they get clean. So rely on the experts there.
Excellent. Thank you. Another one that came in was, I think I saw some mesh filters at one of my customer locations. Do they need to replace those right away?
My answer to that would be yes. The sooner the better.
All right. And there was at least one more here. I've seen something called an auto fryer. Does that need a hood?
I could take this one, Paul. No, these, and what the question refers to, these started off as small, self-contained units that you were able just to put your food inside of, and can take care of any frying outside. That would take place entirely inside the system. These were designed and specifically tested, as we mentioned earlier, UL approved to be ventless, and they also all have their own automatic extinguishing system.
Okay, great. Had another one come in related to the mesh filters. Somebody was asking about costs related to that. I think that could be very variable. Paul, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, the costs all depends on the number of filters, the size of the filters that you have. And again, you need to go to the ventilation company that you deal with the kitchen equipment to get those. I'm not sure on the exact cost of these filters. A lot of the baffle filters run anywhere from $12 to $25 a piece. So if you've got 4 filters in there, yeah, you're looking at about $100 worth of filters. But again, when those are properly cleaned and maintained, those filters last for a long, long time.
Okay, great. Another one asks about if we have a document that shows about the difference between wet, dry, and UL 300 systems. I think we might be getting into that in part 2.
Yeah, that's
yes,
correct.
We definitely cover that in the second section.
I'm having to scroll through some of these here. Do food trucks have requirements similar to this?
A lot of that depends on the local municipality where you're at, but every food truck I see has an automatic extinguishing system built into the cooking equipment and the hoods and ducts. They all have hoods, ducts, they're all vented directly outside.
Somebody did respond that they had a customer recently replace mesh filters and it was about $200, a small bar. As far as cleaning goes, is there anything that an insured can do to illustrate their cleaning methods to us that would help put our underwriters at ease?
When it comes to cleaning, again, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jared.
No, Paul, I'll go ahead and let you take that one.
Well, I was going to say with the cleaning, the biggest thing that puts the underwriter's mind at ease is if there is an outside contractor that is coming and doing the hood and duct cleaning on a regular basis. A comment on how often they're rinsing the filters goes a long way with the underwriters at putting their minds at ease. And pictures are a fantastic thing you can send in. You could send me a picture of a filter and I could tell you yes or no, is that being cleaned adequately just by looking at it. So you can really sing the praises of a new account just with those simple things there.
And if the question was in regards to cooking equipment and how the insurer could, adequately show that they're doing it regularly, just a visual inspection of yourself, or even, as Paul mentioned, photographs will tell you almost immediately if they're doing enough cleaning. If you see even just the the most bare minimum of yellowing or like some sort of film on any of the surfaces, they're probably not doing enough cleaning. You should only see bare metal on all cooking equipment. It should essentially be spotless. Now, that doesn't necessarily go for them while they're cooking. Obviously, it could be a messy process, but at the end of the night, or they should have some sort of regular cleaning schedule, which will essentially be a deep cleaning to make sure all surfaces are free of grease.
Yeah, and another simple thing you can do, Jared mentioned earlier that the deep fat fryer is one of the leading causes of equipment fires in restaurants. If you get a chance, grab a paper towel. Don't do it with your bare hand, but grab a paper towel and open the cabinet door underneath the deep fat fryer. That'll tell you a whole lot about what their cleaning procedures are and what that looks like underneath there.
Okay, great. A couple more here still. Somebody did ask about if we have a document that has information on cleaning frequencies versus volume. Do you want to tackle that, Paul? I believe we do have some documents that are on the open web page.
Yeah, there's things out there, but again, what you're going to fall back on there is what does that cleaning contractor say? It does. The volume of air being drawn through the systems and the size of the systems all depends on what is actually being cooked underneath and how much grease-laden vapors are being generated. So it's important to rely on that contractor. I'm not sure exactly which documents you're referring to, Stig, so that's one I will look up online, and we can talk about that in the next seminar.
Okay, great. Somebody did ask if we're going to give a copy of this presentation. This presentation is being recorded, and that will be posted in an area that that you could access in the future, or have anybody else within your agency access in the future. Let me see if any others came in here real quick. No, that's all. So had a lot of good questions there. That's really good. All right. So with that, we can close our session today. We really thank you for joining us, and we hope that this information has been helpful. So if you want to learn more about how we can help protect these customer businesses, visit our website, societyinsurance.com. You can subscribe to our blogs. Also, like I said, this is being recorded, and hopefully we'll see you again on August 18th at 10 a.m. Central for part 2 of this series. And we certainly thank you for being here, and thank you for choosing Society Insurance.